The bells of Ashdown keep tore through the night as Bryony ran to the window, silk gown fluttering around her ankles. Below, the village was burning. Viking longships with snarling dragon heads bobbed in the black water, their sails like torn ravens' wings against the moonlit sea. She heard steel clash, men shouting, horses screaming. Then she saw him, a giant of a man pushing through the chaos, fur cloak whipping in the wind, axe dripping with blood, long dark hair, loose eyes like winter storm clouds. Torvald Ironwolf. She had heard his name in hushed whispers, wrapped in curses and fear. Their gazes met for a heartbeat through smoke and flame. His lips curved not kindly. The door to her chamber burst open. Rough hands grabbed her, dragging her away from the window. She fought, nails digging into skin, voice hoarse as she screamed her father's name. Then Torvald himself stepped into the room, shadow filling the doorway. "Take the others," he ordered in a deep, accented growl. "The girl is mine." Bryony froze as his hand curled around her wrist, heart unyielding, and in that moment, her life ended, and something far darker began. Bryony woke to the slap of cold sea air and the creak of wood. The world rocked beneath her, the scent of salt thick in her lungs. She lay on furs, wrists bound in braided leather, a silver chain trailing to a wooden post. A Viking longship. Men moved around her, laughing, sharpening blades, their voices rough like gravel. None touched her, not with him there. Torvald stood at the bow, cloak snapping, hair whipped by the wind. He looked carved from stone, shoulders broad, forearms roped with muscle, tattoos curling up his skin like ancient blue fire. She pulled against the chain. "You'll never get a ransom," she spat, voice trembling. "My father will burn your world for this." He turned, slow, amused. "English Rose," he said, walking toward her, boots thudding on wet planks. "Your father will pay, or he will learn how loudly a princess can scream." Bryony lifted her chin. "I'm not a princess." He stopped in front of her, close enough that she could see the scar running from his brow to his cheekbone. "No," he murmured. "You're something rarer, soft, but not weak." His knuckles brushed a strand of hair from her face. Sparks shot down her spine. Bryony swallowed the shiver, hating that her body betrayed her before her pride did. She refused to eat the first day or the second. She kept her back straight, her chin high even when her stomach twisted with hunger and the sea's motion made her sick. Torvald watched. Always watched. From the bow, from the fire, from the shadows, when he thought she slept. On the third night, storm clouds swallowed the moon. The waves slammed against the hull, drenching the deck. Bryony stumbled, chain jerking her back as the ship pitched. She slipped on the wet wood, and would have cracked her head if not for the arm that caught her. Torvald. He steadied her, his hand spanning her waist, heat burning through the thin fabric of her gown. She grabbed his tunic for balance, her fingers tangling in the rough wool, suddenly pressed against the chest as hard as the mast. "Careful, little dove," he murmured against her ear, breath hot, sending goosebumps over her skin. "The sea eats the weak." "I'm not weak," she whispered, though her heartbeat thundered. He leaned back, studying her face. Rain streaked over his jaw, catching on the scar. "No," he said quietly, "you're not." For a moment, the storm outside faded, leaving only the storm between them, rage and fear, hate and something far more dangerous curling at the edges, waiting to catch fire. Morning came pale and bruised. Bryony sat, wrapped in furs, chain still clipped, when a shadow fell over her. One of Torvald's men, blond and sharp-eyed, crouched beside her with a grin that made her skin crawl. "You don't eat," he said, voice slick. "Maybe you'd like other comforts instead." His hand reached for her throat. She jerked back. "Don't touch me." His smile widened. "Our Yarrow can't watch you every moment. English flower. Maybe I want a taste before your father buys you back." He grabbed her chin. She slapped him, hard, palm stinging. His eyes flashed. "You'll pay for that, Eric." Torvald's voice cut through the air like a blade. He was suddenly there, hand wrapped around Eric's wrist, squeezing until the man hissed. "I don't share what's mine," Torvald said softly, though there was nothing gentle in his eyes. "Touch her again, and you'll lose that hand." Eric yanked back, muttering curses as he stalked away. Bryony's heart hammered. "I am not yours," she snapped. Torvald's gaze slid to her, slow, assessing. Until your father pays, he said. You are under my protection. The sea is cruel. My men are worse. Then let me go. He held her stare. I am the worst of them, Bryony, he said quietly. Pray you never see what I am without a reason to be gentle. Days blurred into a rhythm of water and wind. Bryony learned the songs the crew shouted into the storm, rough voices rising like battle cries. She listened to their stories by the fire at night, words thick with ale and loss. Torvald rarely joined them. He sat alone near the prow, sharpening his axe, eyes scanning the horizons. If hunted by ghosts only he could see. One evening, when the sky glowed, bruised purple, and the sea rested calm, Bryony approached, as far as her chain allowed. He noticed immediately, he always did. You don't drink? She said. Or boast? He shrugged, not looking at her. I've spilled enough wine and blood to last 10 lives. Is that supposed to impress me? A hint of a smile tugged at his mouth. Does it? She folded her arms. You want to ransom me? Fine. Then know this. My father is proud. He might refuse. Then I keep you. Torvald replied simply. Heat shot to her cheeks. As what? A prisoner. A trophy. His gaze snapped to hers, suddenly serious. As leverage, as shield. The English won't charge so easily if their precious heiress stands on my walls. You're a monster, she whispered. His jaw tightened. I've been called worse. Yet for the first time, she wondered if he believed it. Storm winds returned that night, howling like hungry wolves. Waves crashed over the sides, dousing the deck in icy water. A shout rose, reef ahead. The ship lurched violently. Bryony slipped, chain snapping tight, pain burning her wrist. A barrel broke loose, rolling toward her with deadly speed. She froze. Torvald didn't. He lunged, slamming into her, knocking them both aside as the barrel smashed into the post where she'd just been standing. They fell hard, Bryony pinned beneath his weight. For a moment neither moved. Her breath hitched his body pressed along hers, heavy, solid, shockingly warm. His hair fell forward, dripping against her cheek. Their faces were inches apart. She could see flecks of silver in his storm-grey eyes. His hand large, calloused braced beside her head. Are you hurt? He demanded, voice rougher than the sea. Oh no, she managed, though her heart was pounding like war drums. He searched her face, as if confirming the truth, before pushing himself up and hauling her with him. His hands lingered on her waist, a heartbeat too long. You saved me, she blurted, stunned. He shrugged, turning away. Dead hostages fetch no coin. But Bryony had seen a flash of fear in his eyes when the barrel had rolled toward her, and for the first time, she wondered if his reasons were not as simple as he claimed. That night, sleep refused to come. Every time Bryony closed her eyes, she felt again the weight of him, the heat of his chest, the shield of his body over hers. Above, footsteps creaked, voices murmured. The ship swayed gently. She stared at the stars through a gap in the sail, and whispered into the dark. Mother, what would you have me do? A voice answered instead. She's not here to save you, little dove. Torvald, he sat opposite her, back to the mast, cloak wrapped around his shoulders. The firelight flickered over his face, softening the sharp lines. Do you listen to all my prayers? She asked. Only the foolish ones. She hugged her knees. Am I foolish for believing there is more to you than raiding and burning? Silence stretched between them, taut as a drawn bow. My father sold my mother for peace, Torvald said finally. She was an English lady. Soft hands. Soft voice. She died in our winter. Too cold. Too far from home. Bryony's breath caught. You're half English. He looked away, jaw clenched. The Nord does not care what blood runs in your veins, only how much you're willing to spill. Something inside her shifted. He was still her captor, still dangerous. But he was no simple monster. He was a man shaped by betrayal and ice, and that made him far more terrifying. They reached a mist-choked inlet, jagged cliffs rising like teeth from the sea. Torvald ordered the ship to anchor. We wait here, he told Bryony, until we hear from your father's men. Wait meant opportunity. That night, while the crew snored, drunk on mead, Bryony worked at the leather bindings around her wrists, fingers raw, heart hammering. She had stolen a small knife from the supply crate, its edge dull but determined. She managed to cut one strap, then the other. The chain fell silently to the deck. Freedom tasted like salt and fear. She crept toward a smaller rowboat tied to the side, breath fogging in the cold air. Her hands shook as she lowered herself in, untying the rope with clumsy fingers. The sea lapped softly, an eerie lullaby. Going somewhere. His voice slid through the dark. Torvald stood at the railing, arms crossed, gaze unreadable. Bryony's throat closed. "I won't be your prisoner forever," she said, forcing steel into her voice. "I'd rather face the sea than you." He descended, boots thudding on wood, stopping beside the boat. "You'll die out there. Maybe. But it will be my choice." For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he sighed, low and harsh. "You think I want a corpse?" he muttered. "Get back on the ship, Bryony. I'm not done with you yet." The next day, the air felt heavier, like the sky knew secrets it wouldn't share. Torvald's ship met a smaller English vessel in the sheltered cove, white flag fluttering weakly. Bryony stood at Torvald's side, wrists free but watched. Her father's envoy, a narrow-faced man in fine clothes, bordered with obvious disgust. "The Lord of Ashtown sends his regards," the man said, gaze sliding over Bryony as if she were a bothersome object. "He offers half the gold you ask." "You overestimate her value." Bryony flinched. Torvald's jaw ticked. "Then he underestimates what I will do if he refuses." The envoy sneered. "She is not his only child." The words punched through her chest. Not his only child. Not worth full ransom. Not worth the price. Torvald glowered. "Tell your lord he has 3 days. Then the North keeps her." When the envoy left, Bryony stared at the sea, throat burning. Torvald stepped closer, voice low. "He is a fool, is he?" she whispered. "Or did you finally see what I have always known?" He hesitated. "You are worth far more than gold, Bryony." Her heart tripped. "To you." His silence said everything, and nothing. On the second night, the sky exploded in color. Ribbons of green and violet danced above them, the northern lights shimmering like spirits. The crew cheered, lifting cups. Bryony stood alone at the prow, breath fogging, eyes wide with wonder. "Never seen them?" Torvald asked, coming to stand beside her. "England doesn't have skies like this," she murmured. "It feels like the gods are watching." "Maybe they are," he said. "Maybe they are laughing." She glanced at him. "What will you do if my father refuses?" He looked straight ahead. "Keep you, use you, protect you. The English will fear to strike if their heiress wears my furs." "And what do I become?" she asked softly. "A shield, a trophy on your wall." His gaze dropped to her lips, then back to her eyes. "You become what you choose to be." Her breath caught. "I didn't choose any of this." His hand rose, stopping just shy of her cheek, as if a line burned between them. "You chose to defy me, to face the sea, to stare me in the eye when others look away. You have more power than you think, Bryony." Under the dancing lights, with the world washed in green fire, she realized the truth. The danger wasn't only in the Viking who had stolen her. It was in how much of her heart he was stealing back. The message came at dawn, a single arrow lodged in the mast, a parchment tied to its shaft. Torvald ripped it free, eyes scanning the lines. Bryony watched his face change anger, disbelief, something like dark amusement. "Well," she demanded. He handed her the parchment. The words blurred, but she forced herself to read. "No ransom. Keep her. If she lives, she lives. If not, the gods judge her, not I." Her father's seal below. Cold. Final. The world tilted. Torvald's hand shot out, steadying her. "Bryony," she swallowed hard. "He really did it," she whispered. "He chose gold and pride over his daughter." Her chest cracked open. Grief, rage. A wild, desperate freedom. She was no longer anyone's bargaining chip, no longer anyone's precious heiress. She was unwanted. Tears burned her eyes. She hated them. Hated that he saw them. Torvald cupped her face, thumbs rough against her cheeks. "Look at me," he ordered. She did. You are not his to discard, he said, voice low and fierce. If he's too blind to see your worth, then he does not deserve you. Something inside her snapped and rearranged. On a breath she didn't remember choosing, Bryony surged forward, closing the space between them. Her lips crashed into his desperate, furious, aching. For a heartbeat he froze. Then the Ironwolf shattered. He kissed her back like a man starved, hands sliding into her hair, pulling her closer, claiming and yet, somehow asking. The sea roared. The world spun, and Bryony knew that whatever line had existed between captor and captive had just burned to ash. They reached Torvald's village as dusk bled into night-wooden halls crouched against the cold, smoke curling from peaked roofs. The people stared as they passed. A Viking warlord and the English heiress at his side. Inside the longhouse, heat wrapped around her. Fire roared in the center pit, shadows dancing over carvings on the walls. Wolves, ravens, spirals of ancient knots. Torvald gave her a heavy fur cloak. You'll freeze without this. I thought the North only kept what it took, she replied, pulling it around her shoulders. His eyes darkened. Maybe we can learn new ways. Their fragile truce, their stolen kiss, hung between them. Every glance felt like a touch. Every brush of his hand sent sparks through her veins. But danger coiled in the corners of the hall. Eric watched them with narrowed eyes. An older man, Torvald's uncle, broad and scarred, stepped forward. You bring an English witch into our home. The uncle growled. She will curse us. Sell you out. You grow weak, boy. Torvald's voice chilled. I grew strong enough to take what I want. His hand found the small of Bryony's back. She stays. Whispers rippled. Bryony stood taller, pulse racing, realizing something brutal and thrilling. In claiming her, Torvald had just defied his own blood. And the fire between them was now brighter and more dangerous than ever. Snow fell silent and thick, turning the world outside the longhouse into a frozen dream. Bryony learned the language of the North in fragments, laughing children, women weaving by the fire, men mending sails. Some ignored her, others glared. A few, quietly, offered smiles. Torvald was rarely far, training men in the yard, speaking with his uncle in low, heated tones, watching her whenever he thought she wouldn't notice. One night, she heard her name in a harsh whisper. She followed the sound to the shadows behind the hall, where Eric spoke with a cloaked stranger. When the English attack, Eric murmured, we let them kill the Jarl and take the girl. I get gold, you get your enemy's head. Bryony's blood turned to ice, wood creaked beneath her foot. Both men's heads snapped up. There, Eric lunged. Bryony spun and ran, heart slamming, boots slipping in snow. She raced toward the training field, toward Torvald. Eric hit her from behind, sending her sprawling. He rolled her onto her back, hand at her throat. You should have stayed a quiet little prize, he snarled. A roar split the air. Torvald slammed into Eric, ripping him away from her, fist connecting with a sickening crack. The two men crashed into the snow, a blur of fists, fury, and blood. Traitor! Torvald bellowed, knuckles slick red. You would sell my people. Eric spat blood. You lost your edge, Ironwolf. You let her soften you. Torvald's eyes flicked to Bryony, shaking, breathless, staring at him not with fear, but with something fierce and unbroken. If this is soft, he snarled, raising his blade, then let the world tremble. Dawn came stained with crimson. Eric's body lay outside the palisade, exiled to the snow. The village buzzed with tension. Some called Torvald reckless. Others whispered that he had saved them all. Bryony stood beside him as the elders gathered. Torvald's uncle stepped forward, voice sharp. Your English weakness almost cost us our lives. You killed your own man for her. Choose now, Torvald. The girl. Or your people. Bryony's heart plunged. This was her fault. Her presence. Her kiss. Her very existence had become a blade at his throat. She stepped forward, voice steady. Then let me make the choice. All eyes snapped to her. I will go, she said. You fear, I will curse you. I won't. You fear, I will betray you. I won't. But I will not be the crack that shatters this place. Give me a horse. I'll ride south. Alone. Torvald's face hardened. No, this isn't your decision, she replied, meeting his gaze. You took my freedom, I'm taking this. Silence burned between them, pain, pride, something raw and aching. His uncle smirked. Let the witch go then. If she dies in the snow, the gods decide. Torvald looked at Bryony like a man standing on a cliff's edge, wind howling in his ears. If you walk away, he said quietly, you leave as mine, not his, not theirs. Mine. And know this, Bryony, nothing in this world will stop me from coming for you. Her chest screamed stay, her mind screamed run. In the end, her heart chose the only path that felt like survival. She turned and walked into the snow. The world became white and endless. Breath fogged the air. Hooves crunched over ice. Bryony rode south with only a fur cloak and the echo of Torvald's voice in her bones. Night fell like a curtain. Wolves howled in the distance. Her fingers numbed on the reins. She thought of Ashtanov, a father who had traded her for pride, of a life gilded but empty. She thought of Torvald's scarred hands, his storm-grey eyes, the way he had thrown himself between her and danger again and again, the way his mouth had trembled against hers, just once, as if he was terrified of needing anything. The choice snapped clear. Bryony tugged the reins and turned the horse not south, but north. Back toward the cold, back toward the danger, back toward the man who had stolen her life and, somehow, taught her how to claim it. Snow stung her cheeks as she rode hard. Hours later, the village rose from the white like a dream. Torvald stood at the gate, cloak whipping, jaw clenched, as if he'd been routed there since she left. He saw her. His eyes widened, then softened in a way she'd never seen. You came back, he breathed. She slid from the saddle, legs shaking, meeting him in the snow. I didn't choose you because you took me, Bryony said, voice steady. I choose you because when the world discarded me, you didn't. For the first time, the Ironwolf dropped to one knee not in surrender, but in a vow only they understood. Then stay, he said. Not as my hostage, as my equal, my raven of the north. Bryony stepped forward, fingers threading into his hair, pulling him up into a kiss that tasted of frost and fire, fear and freedom, not rescue, not escape, a choice.